What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge. Clearly, I'm still in Rochester, putting a bow on the PGA Championship, which was phenomenal. Oak Hill was special. Brooks Koepka was dominant. It produced a really incredible and compelling championship. It was cool to meet all you guys out there, say hello and chop it up a bit. So obviously still in the hotel room. I'll be flying back here shortly. So apologies for any, lesser than normal audio quality or something like that. But we're going to run through this week's Charles Schwab Challenge, the golf course, Colonial, the field, everything there is to talk about, and see if we can find some good guys in the model that we're going to run at the end. So let's trend on. Let's go. Okay, here's my website, RickRunGood.com. It's a giant database for fantasy golf and golf betting. Here's the course key stats model. And what we have here is a very solid regression model. We've been playing Colonial for years. And while it is one of the shorter courses on the PGA Tour schedule, 7,200 yards. It plays fairly difficult, especially if this area, Fort Worth, hasn't had a lot of moisture, hasn't had a lot of rain. If you get a dry season, it can play pretty darn firm and fast. So it'll give these guys a pretty solid test. But the stat breakdown. So the stat breakdown here is looking at the last dozen years of data and looking for which golfers and their stats have had the best success and what is most correlated to success. And you'll see a couple of different things here that stand out. Strokes gained approach inside the top 20 on the PGA Tour, so above average. It's 19th. The way that reads is there are only 18 other courses in which the PGA Tour in which that strokes gained approach is more correlated to success than here at Colonial. You also see a big number on putting, 10th. That means there's only 9 other courses in which strokes gained putting is more correlated to success than here at Colonial. That is interesting. It hasn't always, it's not like it's going to be a birdie fest, but the guys that tend to putt well have had success here. The one thing that I think will be most different from last week will be driving accuracy. This is a classic tree-lined golf course. It's a Perry Maxwell design. You want to keep it in play, get it to the middle of the fairway, give yourself some looks. You start bringing in the big numbers when you start missing off the tee and start playing into the rough. So especially compared to last week, driving accuracy would be much more important when we get to the model stage here. But we have a strong field, or at least a strong field for after a major championship, right? You have the Texas guys here in Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth. Victor Hovland's going to tee it up. Max Homa's going to tee it up. I mean, it's a very good field the week after a major championship, after they've basically gone Texas to Rochester, right back to Texas. So it's pretty good. We'll dive into all of these players and their prices right now. Here we go, the cheat sheet. 5 golfers over $10,000. Scotty Scheffler leads the way at $11,500. Tony Finau, $10,700. Victor Hovland, $10,600. Collin Morikawa, $10,400. Max Homa at $10,100. These are the best of the best. I don't know how much I need to go into each one of these golfers individually, but I will continue the trend that we have been talking about, in which Scotty Scheffler is so much better than basically everybody else on tour. I know, Jon Rahm caveats, Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, whoever I get it. But this man has not stopped being an elite tee to green player in 18 months. And everything that we say about him every single week continues to remain true. He is likely to gain somewhere between 10 and 15 strokes from tee to green, which again, he did at the PGA Championship, 15 strokes gain tee to green there. And he is likely to lose 3 strokes putting or gain 2 strokes putting, somewhere in there. And if he gains 2 strokes putting, he probably wins the golf tournament. That is truly the outcome here. He has not lost strokes outside of the Tournament of Champions. So he lost a quarter of a stroke off the tee at the Tournament of Champions. The time before that was a year ago at the 2022 Southern Hills PGA Championship. He has not lost strokes on approach since the WGC FedEx St. Jude. He lost less than a half of a stroke there. And before that, it was the Players Championship where he was on the wrong side of the wind draw, and it was absolutely brutal. I mean, this guy is truly special to be able to continue what he's been doing week in and week out. To continue to put this into perspective, the tee to green numbers over the last 35 rounds, he is lapping the field. He's at 2.7 strokes gained tee to green. The next best in this field is Collin Morikawa, 1.5. Victor Hovland, 1.4. So that is a 1.1 stroke per round gap between Scottie Scheffler and the rest of the field. It is the same gap from Colin Morikawa all the way down to Kurt Kitayama, who's like 30th in tee to green play in this field. So just going to throw that out there. You know, if you can fit Scottie in as much as you can, I think it's worth it. The 15 or what are we up to? 14 consecutive top 15 finishes at this point. Finished runner-up here last year. If you can jam him, jam him. I will say this. I was out there Saturday at the PGA Championship. It was brutal. It was nasty. They played through, I don't want to say torrential rain, but a solid, steady rain all day long. Scottie shot a 73. He will rue that Saturday because otherwise he'd be adding another major championship to his collection right about now. It was very, very impressive stuff outside of that really, really sloppy day that we had. Tony Finau, I think, might be the most interesting guy. So here's a scenario that could happen, and we'll know more as the week goes on when we get to the Wednesday live chat, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Rick Run Good YouTube channel. We are going to have a lot more mature ownership projections. But what I could see is a scenario like this. Either people are willing to pay up for Texan superstar Scottie Scheffler. They are willing to go down to Viktor Hovland, who has now been a ball striking machine. He did not lose that championship yesterday. Brooks won it. Yes, he drew a bad lie on 16 fair. I was there. There was a big clump of sand behind his ball. Did the same thing that Corey Connors did on Saturday and drove it into the face of the bunker. Otherwise, he was pretty darn good. Kept himself in the mix the entire time. I think people will go to Victor. You look at Colin, who coulda, shoulda, woulda won this event in 2020, or you go down to Jordan Spieth. What I'm getting at here is I think it creates a situation where Tony Finau could be, we'll see, a little bit overlooked. And his play at the PGA Championship was really, really sour. He lost in both the ball striking categories, which is shocking. He lost big with the putter, which is not as shocking. But to put that ball striking week into perspective, he has not lost that many strokes in the ball striking categories since the 2020 WGC FedEx St. Jude. So we are going on 2.5 years, almost 3 full years. So unlikely to think that he is going to have another week like that. Then you realize he's been phenomenal at this event. 4 top 25 finishes, a runner-up finish in 2019, a 4th place finish in 2020. And I wonder, that will probably be enough for most people, but I do wonder if they'll opt for Jordan Spieth or Viktor Hovland or someone else more tangibly. Tony's never lost strokes off the tee here. He's never lost strokes ball striking here. He's been a phenomenal putter here. The short game has been stout. So this is a very, very good setup for him. And I'm wondering if we can get a little bit of the juice squeezed out of him because he's stuck in this sandwich pricing. I'll just cover the rest of these guys very, very quickly. I think Scottie's by far the best player in the field. I think that Tony could be an interesting pivot. Victor, listen, he's playing for major championships, right? The last 3 major championships have been his best 3 major championships. And he's learning quickly how to win those events because it's different. And I don't necessarily think that his focus is only on those because I'm sure he'd love to win Colonial this week, but I think that golf courses like Oak Hill and those types of setups are really rewarding for Victor's skill set. Also, I think one of the pretty good comps around here is Harbortown. Tree lines, play it to the right spots. Maybe you aren't hitting driver everywhere. I think I would like to see Victor hit driver. I think that's where he gets to separate himself from the field. So Victor might go out and have a good week this week. Certainly possible, and certainly likely. I just think that this is not one of the better course setups for him, but I will say this. 10.6 strokes gained on approach last week. He was phenomenal. He gained across the board. He didn't even drive it all that well. The short game is stout. I want you guys to pay attention to something or go back and watch the PGA Championship from last week. There are a couple of new shots in Victor's arsenal. That spinny bunker shot that he has, that you saw it probably 4 or 5 times all week long, especially early in the week. It would bounce 2 or 3 times and then slam on the brakes. That's a new shot. it's a new shot. He's working with Joe Mayo on that. It's a very steep down. It's like 10 degrees of an angle of attack. That's a new shot. He's also much cleaner around the greens making contact. So we're seeing improvement around the green statistically, but go out with the eye test. Go watch, go back and watch some of the PGA Championship stuff. He has a couple of new shots in the arsenal. It's very, very good. The one I think I'm most interested in, Colin, whatever. Colin's going to be whatever. Max Homa is starting to round back into form, right? He comes through this little mini slump where he misses the cut at the RBC Heritage. He misses the cut with Morikawa at the Zurich. He didn't play particularly well at the Masters before that. Then we got a good start at the Wells Fargo Championship, and we got like okay stuff around the PGA Championship. I think it is interesting. We do need to almost go round by round. So this is the Holy Grail. You can go round by round here and kind of look at the PGA Championship. I'll tell you what, it was so different day in, day out. Thursday was beautiful. Friday wasn't supposed to rain. It did rain a little bit. The afternoon wave got a huge advantage. Saturday was just pouring all day long, and we played through it. And then Sunday was beautiful. So it was like 4 seasons, or at least 3 seasons, all week long. So I kind of like to look into the round by round stuff. So Max's worst stuff was Saturday, where he lost a stroke and a half, and then Sunday he lost in total the same amount, but most of it came on approach. That's a little bit surprising because he had been hitting it better in the rounds prior to that. So this is generally a pretty safe stat line. You have your worst day in the worst conditions, and then you have one bad approach day, but otherwise that's not something that you see out of him often. You could put together a path where Homa starts trending in the right direction, starts playing a lot better. And, his history around this place, right here, 23rd last year, missed the cut in 2020, and he finished 27th in 2019. Now here's the 9K range. Jordan Spieth, Sam Burns, Sungjae Im, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Chris Kirk, Siwoo Kim. Jordan Spieth. So will all of these lineups start Scotty Spieth? Will they start Victor Spieth? Will they just start Spieth? What's going to happen here? We're going to find out. But Jordan will be incredibly popular. He played all 4 rounds last week through the wrist injury. I talked about it on Wednesday. I saw him out there, and he did not look encumbered at all with the wrist. Exactly what you would expect. He drove it beautifully, gained nearly 6 strokes on off the tee. He gained another 3 on approach, and it was actually the short game that let him down, which is pretty rare. If you talk about ultimate course horses, your Rory McIlroys at Quail Hollow, your John Rahms at Torrey Pines South, Jordan Spieth and Colonial is another one of those ultimate course horses. So on the Holy Grail here, of anybody who has played any rounds, or who are in this field who has played this event at Colonial since the start of 2008, Jordan Spieth is far and away the best player. He's got 40 rounds. He's getting 2.4 strokes per round. 40 rounds. Morikawa is next. He's only played 12 rounds, and he's at 1.7. So that is 3/4 of a stroke better in over 3 times as many rounds. That is stupid good. Let me pull up his history here so that you can see it kind of all in one spot. And, the short game concerns around Rochester, around Oak Hill, I don't think you're going to have those short game concerns around Colonial. He has, in the last 4 trips here, gained 9.5, 8.5, 8, and 4.5 strokes in the short game categories. He lost 0.38 in 2018, and then the 2 years combined prior to that, he gained 19 strokes in the short game categories. I just don't think that's going to be an issue, and the long game has been much better. So Jordan Spieth will be popular. It will be warranted, and if you are fancy on getting him in, there's other ways that we can be different. Because honestly, after Jordan Spieth, the 9K range turns into a lot more question marks. Sam Burns, who won this event last year, is coming off 2 missed cuts and was one of the worst players at the PGA Championship. Sungjae Im, coming off a very ugly missed cut, one of the worst finishes at the PGA Championship. Let's just quickly look at how those 2 guys did this. Sam Burns was never in the championship. He lost strokes basically across the board. He hemorrhaged strokes around the green. It was not good. Sungjae, maybe even more surprising because of how consistent he is coming off the win in Korea. Drove it well, didn't do anything else well. Lost 3 strokes on approach. That's his worst since the CJ Cup. Lost strokes around the green, lost strokes with the putter. Not very good. If you were asking me to go back to one of these guys, it would probably be Sungjae. He's got 2 top 15 finishes here in his last 3 years. Obviously, Sam Burns has the win, but Sam Burns has been a little bit too inconsistent for my liking as of late. We'll see if he's able to go to a place that sets up well for him and find that immediate success. I'm hoping we can get a little deal on Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood has low-key been playing some unbelievable golf. So finishes T18 at the PGA Championship, where he gained strokes across the board. T5 at the Wells Fargo Championship, where he gained strokes across the board. T15 at the RBC Heritage, where he gained strokes across the board. That is 3 consecutive events, gaining strokes across the board, top 20s in each of them. They're either a major championship or an elevated event, and one of them, especially RBC Heritage, is a pretty good comp to what we have this week, where you've got to be playing out of the fairway. It's got to be, it's good drive percentage. It's keeping it in play. It's all that stuff. There is a chance Tommy Fleetwood wins this golf tournament. I don't know if he's going to win. Listen, we're still looking for that first win on the PGA Tour, but I love this. I love this. This is a really good spot for him. I'm hoping everybody goes to Jordan Spieth and leaves Tommy Ladd alone. Finished 35th here last year. So 9K range, interesting. Probably a lot of leverage outside of everybody who is not named Jordan Spieth. As we enter this 8K range, Rickie Fowler leads us off at $8,900. And he was one of the most popular golfers on the slate last week. I believe he was the most popular golfer on the slate last week, and he missed the cut. So let's first investigate how that miscut happened and how concerned we should be about it. Gained 3.5 strokes off the tee. Amazing. Lost a little bit on approach. Gained a little bit around the green. Lost with the putter. He missed the cut on the number. He actually gained strokes for the week. I am not generally concerned about that at all. I want to show you something else. If you go to the power rankings page and look at the last 36 rounds for everybody in this field, Rickie Fowler is the 4th best player in this field. Scotty Scheffler by a mile, Justin Rose, Jordan Spieth, Rickie Fowler. That's it. That's the top 4. It's raw strokes gained. We can flip it over to weighted if you want, but Rickie has been playing really good golf, played good enough golf last week, didn't get it done. I'm with guys like Matt Fitzpatrick and Sungjae and Sam Burns and Jason Day and like all these other guys who are missing the cut. It's a major championship. Oak Hill was sick. Rickie actually gained a half a stroke to the field, still missed the cut. If we can get a chance to get back to him, I think that's the way to do it. Couple of late charges that we saw last week. Kurt Kitayama had one. He's not in this $8,000 range, but he's coming up shortly. Cam Davis had another. Let me revisit Cam Davis here. So he shoots a 65 on Sunday, and it's tied for low round of the week. Obviously, the scoring conditions were the best of the week, but it was still phenomenal stuff. Can we zoom out a bit? Because the stretch from, and I might have to do this in my newsletter this week, but you can sign up for RickRunGood.com/newsletter. The stretch from, boy, it goes back pretty far. Okay, so this event last year, where he finished T7, has a great summer into the fall, has a bunch of top 20s, plays well basically everywhere, goes to Australia, finishes T7 at their PGA Championship, all good there. Starts off well in Sony, great ball striking numbers. Then he had this really bizarre stretch of 5 missed cuts in a row. Really, really ugly. And we didn't really know what happened. And it comes out later that, he was, I don't know if he was diagnosed with it, but it was like, he's like, I was sick and I haven't been feeling good for a long time. And now I feel good again. And that was like the Players' Championship. Well, since then, he's got the T6 of the Players, played well but didn't get out of his group at the match play. T7 at RBC Heritage, another good comp. Makes the cut at Quail Hollow, and the T4 last week. The driving's been phenomenal. The rest of the game's been there. Like, we are seeing, if I remove that 5, if we just are able to say, yeah, he was just not himself and he was sick or he wasn't feeling right. If I remove those 5 events and go back the last year, he might be one of the best players in this field. I think, unfortunately, he doesn't get, nobody's going to forget that he shot a 65 on Sunday at Oak Hill. Hopefully they do. But this feels like we are getting real maturity, real improvement from a guy who had a bunch of raw talent 3 years ago, and he's getting a lot better now. So that's pretty exciting. I like that a lot. The weird thing here is Tom Hoge. Tom Hoge's $8,500. Tom Hoge went to TCU. This event's in Fort Worth. I don't know if it's too much pressure, too much hometown responsibility. We've seen that before. This should be a lot better golf course for him than it is. You hit a lot of shots between, excuse me, 100 and 200 yards, right? Kind of like wedge, 9-iron type range for most of these guys. But for whatever reason, he has really been unable to solve this place. 3 straight missed cuts and a T40 and a T42 before that. His best finish was 7 years ago. Finished T17, and it's because he absolutely scorched earth with the putter that week. So this is really bizarre that this golf course does not fit his game, because you think it would on paper, but something's going on there which causes pause for me when we get to Tom Hoge. Pretty high on Minwoo, just kind of long term. Pretty high on Steven Yeager long term. Pretty high on Taylor Moore long term. Minwoo is more volatile than those guys are. We saw him pop at the Players Championship. We saw him have that great run in Europe at the end of 2022. And we haven't always seen the best play out of him as of late. But dude, I was standing next to him he was in the left rough on 4, and he had to hit this shot under one branch, over another. The impact of the compression of the golf ball and the impact of his club, it shook the ground. It was bizarre. I've never really felt that before. And maybe just because of the lie that we were on and where we were standing, but it's pretty impressive, man. The game is super good. As we enter the 7K range and find a little bit of value, I want to show you something here. So here's the trends tool. This is one of my favorite tools. And a couple weeks ago, I added this strokes gained trend column, which basically looks at every single golfer's baseline, 100 rounds, compares how they're playing right now, and gives you a new number. So if your 100 round baseline is 1 and you're playing a half stroke over that, your new strokes gained trend is a stroke and a half. And it allows us to compare golfers in different spots of form. So for example, Tony Finau is right now in the last 36 rounds actually below his own 100 round baseline. It hurt. The PGA Championship obviously hurt. But even despite being below his own baseline, he is still the 6th best player in this field in strokes gained trend, right? Because of how good his baseline actually has been. So that's the way to compare these guys. So, Nick Taylor, who's playing significantly over his head, basically doubling his baseline, is still the 5th best player in this field. And this is raw numbers. They're not strength of field adjusted or anything like that, but a really good way to compare things. So as we enter the 7K range, I do want to point out a few. Nick Taylor is $7,200. Playing above his baseline, doing it in a way that's not particularly great, mostly short game gains. It's okay. The one I like more is Eric Cole. Eric Cole is playing 2/3 of a stroke over his baseline. He's doing all of it from tee to green. And he played really well, especially in spurts last week. So remember, when we concluded Thursday and we stopped because of light, we were out of light because there was a frost delay. Eric Cole was at 5 under and he was leading the PGA Championship. Now he immediately, it is so hard. It is so hard. I cannot describe to you how hard it is to be sleeping after 15 holes on the lead at the PGA Championship, wake up at whatever time you have to wake up to resume at 7:30 a.m. and have to play the 6th hole at Oak Hill, which was by far the hardest hole in the golf course. It is one of the hardest holes in PGA Championship history, and Scotty Scheffler called it the hardest hole he's ever played. That's the hole that Eric Cole had to start on in the morning, and he immediately made a double, which was the lock of the century, right? And that drops him down, but after that, he kind of hangs around top 20, gets into the top 10 for a second, bounces around. He ends up finishing T15, gaining strokes in every single category. Now, we've got a stretch where his last 4 tournaments are T15, T23, missed the cut at Wells Fargo, but not super bad, and then T5 in Mexico. Eric Cole is a very, very strong player with great ball striking capabilities who has a nose for the top of the leaderboard, right? This dude has been grinding mini tours successfully. He's not scared of anybody. It's a really cool little thing to have. I really like his game. I love the way he responded after the double, stayed in it, and he's been playing great golf. So he just absolutely stands out in the $7,000 range to me. When you try to look at Colonial and golfers that are likely to have success, Brendan Todd, coming off a missed cut at Oak Hill, obviously. The guy's one of the shortest hitters on the PGA Tour. He was dead at Oak Hill. But what did the key metrics say? Accuracy has been highly correlated to success. Putting has been highly correlated to success. What does Brendan Todd do well? He's one of the most accurate drivers of the ball. He's one of the best putters in the world. Had a T8 finish at Wells Fargo. He's finished inside the top 8 at this event in each of the last 2 years. That makes complete sense because this is, of a lot of courses on the PGA Tour, one of the better spots for him. So here, I'll pull up his stat profile for you just so that you can see it. He actually was like pretty good at the PGA Championship, all things considered. He was even off the tee, lost 2 on approach, small gain around the green, small gain with the putter, and missed the cut by a stroke. That's about as good as you're going to get. And that's his first missed cut since the Genesis, which is also not a good spot for him. He missed the cut in Phoenix before that, not a good spot for him. Pebble Beach, much better spot for him. So it is like you can deploy Brendan Todd pretty happily on Brendan Todd golf courses. You cannot run him out at non-Brendan Todd golf courses, but this is certainly a Todd spot. I think I have 2 more for you. Here's Alex Smalley at $7,600. So Alex Smalley, when the calendar year ended, was scorching hot. We've talked about this before. T11 in Bermuda, T4 in Houston, T5 at the RSM Classic, and the metrics were phenomenal. And then boom, RSM Classic's the last event for like 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And he just never found it again to start 2023. However, last 2 starts look a lot more like the fall version of Alex Smalley than the New Year version of Alex Smalley. Gained across the board at the PGA Championship. Gained across the board at the Wells Fargo. T18, T23 in those 2 weeks. Tee to green numbers really, really good. Don't they look similar? They look very, very similar to that stretch run at the end of last year. So if he's back to that, if he's found it, he's rolling. I don't mind that one single bit. The other one is Matt Neesmith. Same thing. You could throw these 2 in the same bucket. Neesmith's year ended with T9 at Jackson, runner-up at the Shriners, T9 at Zozo. I mean, he was playing such great golf, then he lost it. He's back. T4 to Zurich, T35 to Wells Fargo, T30 to Byron Nelson, and actually played well again last week. He finished, let's see where he finished. I think it was like 30th? No, better than that, I think. Yeah, here he is. T23, 3 strokes ball striking, gained in the short game categories. Very, very good stat profile coming out of Matthew Neesmith. Is there anybody else here in the 7K range? Oh, Sam. Okay, so Sam Stevens is a Fort Worth guy. I know he went to Oklahoma State, but he's from Fort Worth. I don't know what that's worth, but he's got the 3rd place finish at Punta Cana. The Texas Open, he finished runner-up. Byron Nelson, he finished 34th. He likes playing in Texas. Made the cut last week. He finished like 72nd, but $7,100 for Sam Stevens is pretty darn good. The 6K range. We'll round it out with the 6K range, and then we will run a model. Michael Block is $6,900. Michael Block gave us incredible content this week. We interviewed him on Friday. Great guy. I actually know the area that he's from quite well. Know the club that he's from. The dude was walking on clouds, as he should be. What he did is statistically improbable, right? To even qualify for the PGA Championship as a club pro, to then make the cut, to then play with Rory on Sunday, to then dunk an ace on 15, it's insane. I wish Michael Block nothing but success, but I would be quite dubious about his chances this week. He was still doing, when I left Sunday night and the sun was setting, and he was still doing media. I mean, they ran him out there. He probably did more media than Brooks Koepka did. Seriously, like tour-related media than Brooks Koepka did. Because of the live versus PGA stuff, and also just like the ability to use Michael, like the commitments. It's like he won the golf tournament, and he gets into this event with a phone call, and like. I don't know, man. This feels like a recipe for disaster. I hope I'm wrong. He gained like 6 strokes putting last week. I really, really hope he has another great week and goes on to put together a run here. He's going to play the Canadian Open as well. And if he continues to play well, he might end up with some more sponsors invites. But I would be quite dubious about his chances for this week, especially when you have some really talented guys around this price tag that are, the more seasoned PGA Tour guys. Even a Chez Reavie, who has been quietly playing solid golf. And you talk about what's a Chez Reavie course. This is a Chez Reavie course, right? He even makes the cut last week at the PGA Championship, gained 3.7 strokes on approach. He putts it beautifully. He's gained at least 2 strokes putting in each of his last 5 starts. So give me that. He's also one of the most accurate drivers on tour. It's a look at what he does at Heritage, right? T11, boom. So like, it's similar to Brendan Todd. This is where you roll out Chez Reavie, and especially in a situation like if Michael Block is 10, like, can I get like a 10% owned Michael Block, and we'll just write off that version and hope that, I don't want to say hope that he misses the cut. He seems like a nice enough guy, but I think he's going to be exhausted. I'm exhausted from this past week. I cannot imagine what he's going through right now. We got a week off from Austin Eckroat, who didn't play the PGA Championship after his runner-up at the Byron Nelson. So Austin Eckroat, coming out of that pipeline at Oklahoma State and, comes out with very high expectations, and it's been a slow start to 2023 for him. Looks like he's finding his footing. Similar to Dylan Wu, similar to Sam Stevens, similar to a lot of these guys, right? The learning curve on the PGA Tour is not Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, and so on, right? It's like Justin Suh, who's now rounding into form. Austin Eckroat, who's now rounding into form. Great ball striking numbers. Got hot with the putter to Byron Nelson, but he had also gained 7.5 strokes ball striking. Gained 3 at the Mexico Open. He gained 3 at the Wells Fargo Championship. So this is a solid trend that he is building, and he's going to be very well rested heading into this week's tournament. Who else do we have here in the $6,000 range? $6,600 Dylan Wu. I can never get over how much this guy gets disrespected. He's been one of the best fantasy golfers out there. Never gets a price increase. You look at what he did. So he missed the cut to Byron Nelson. He gained 3 strokes on Thursday and gave it back on Friday, and I think he missed the cut on the number. He literally has had like 1 bad round in his last 10. He's had 2 bad rounds in his last 25. I don't understand. He's accurate enough, and he's a good putter. And he never gets the price increase. Look at the trajectory he's on, right? This is his running strokes gain total in the last 100 rounds, just straight up and to the right. T21 at the Wells Fargo, T15 in Mexico. Made a bunch of cuts before that. Missed the cut at the Zurich. It doesn't even matter. That doesn't even matter. This is such a good stat profile on a course that should set up decently well for him. I think. Oh, Carson Young as well. Carson Young has 3 top 20s in his last 5 starts and is very accurate. One of the most accurate drivers in this field, and putts well enough. Kind of shocking that these guys never get price increases. Okay, let's run a model and see who else we can find. RickRunGood custom model. We're going to be a little bit creative this week. Well, I try to be creative every single week, but we're going to go a little bit more on accuracy than distance. So we'll go to the driving. We'll start there. We'll put 15 on accuracy, and then we'll just put like 5 on strokes gained off the tee last 36, just so we get like we're going to double count accuracy a little bit, but we'll get a little bit of distance there. Let's go to course types. Probably want short courses, so we'll probably go 10 on short courses, and then we'll go course history. And I like putting 5 on Colonial, and I like putting 5 on Harbor Town. I also could put 5, this would be a lot on driving, but I think that's okay. 5 on good drive percentage, which gives you an opportunity to just make sure that you can get to the green in regulation. Putting, we could do strokes gained putting on bent, so we'll put 10 there, but we know that strokes gained putting is a pretty important one this week. So we'll do strokes gained putting last 36 for another 10. So we are piling up a little bit there, and that's fine. We do need to do Now we do need approach and around the green. So we'll do approach last 36. It's always going to be pretty important. We'll put 15 there, and we'll just put 10 around the green for the last 24. So we've got 10 left. We'll put our last 10 on fantasy points gained. My number one golfer is, oh boy, Justin Rose. Yikes. I mean, he's been great. What was he, like the third best player in this field in the last 36 rounds, something like that? So I get it. Justin Rose, number one. Scotty Scheffler, number two. Look who's three. Denny McCarthy. Denny McCarthy. Yeah. 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 I mean, he gets a pretty big boost everywhere. Tony Finau, 4. Sung Jae, 5. Look who's next. Brendan Todd, 6. Morikawa and Victor are 7 and 8. Jordan Spieth, 9. Ben Martin, 10. Yeah. Let's go. Just trying to look through some out. So obviously big bumps to Rose, Denny, Brendan Todd, Ben Martin. Knocks on Colin and Victor. And Max Homa. Max Homa's 17th for me, which is not particularly great. Tommy Fleetwood's 13th. That's pretty darn good. Carson Young is 19th for me. He's ranked $6,300. That's awesome. Austin Eckroach, 24th. He's ranked $6,700. Reevy, $6,900, 30th. All well, I mean, Dylan Wu, $6,600, 35th. All well above their own, like where you'd expect them to be. Very interesting. Okay. I think I'm going to call it there. One, because I think we covered everything, and two, because I got to go to the airport and fly back. So might have a little just things scheduling different this week. Maybe the newsletter comes out a couple hours later than normal because I'll be a little bit behind, but still going to have the live chat on 3 p.m. Eastern, Rick Run Good YouTube channel. Go sign up for rickrungood.com. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the support, guys. I'll talk to you soon.